What exactly needs to be done to revamp and reform Michigan's unemployment insurance system? Hello and thanks for joining us. I'm Laurel Hess and this is Comcast Newsmakers. Our topic today is unemployment insurance reform. Joining us now to talk about it is Wendy Block, the Director of Health Policy and Human Resources for the Michigan Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Now this is one system I didn't know was on its way to broke or broken, much like we've heard for some time about our Social Security system, the tax structure here in Michigan. But we don't hear a whole lot about problems with unemployment insurance, but it sounds like there are many.
There really is. Michigan is facing an unemployment insurance crisis. The system is 100% employer financed, and it currently owes $3.1 billion to the federal government. And that is a result of the huge unemployment numbers here in the state, but also the fact that every year since 2000, Michigan has paid out more to claimants than they have taken in tax revenue from employers.
So then what is the solution? Do we require business owners to pay more into the system, or do we need to take a better look at the money that's going out?
Well, I think it's likely a combination of both. You don't solve a $3.2 billion problem overnight without just taxing employers out of the state, and we recognize that. But we also believe that higher taxes is probably part of a short-term solution to this problem, but really we believe the focus should be on cost-saving reform measures. And the Chamber is working on a large reform package to the unemployment insurance system. We certainly want to make sure that benefits are available to claimants when they need and deserve them, but there are situations under our current law in which we don't do a good job in terms of making sure that people are actually out and actively seeking work, which the law requires, and we're giving away benefits to people that are trying to defraud the system. So really, we need to do a better job of that, and then also look for solutions to kind of this general solvency problem.
Aren't we a little bit at mercy of the federal government as well when we hear that they're going to extend unemployment benefits and you can get them for another 6 months or another year? Does Michigan have the ability to opt out of that, or do they kind of have to go along with it?
So in most of the federal extensions, states have been given the opportunity to say thanks but no thanks. Michigan has not refused any of that money to date, but most of the federal extensions have actually been paid for by federal dollars, but a lot of those are federal unemployment tax dollars that employers pay. So it is somewhat different. There's, kind of state benefits and then federal extensions. The $3.1 billion problem that we have, though, is solely an issue of people collecting their full 26 weeks of benefits, and the fact that the tax revenue hasn't come in enough to pay all of those benefits out.
So is Michigan alone in this crisis, or are there a lot of other states suffering along with us?
So California actually has the largest debt in the nation, but Michigan has the largest debt per capita, meaning that based on our population, we actually have the largest debt overall. But 30 some other states are in a borrowing situation alongside Michigan, but certainly we are in kind of the worst of the worst category.
At what point does it get so bad that somebody applies for unemployment and somebody at the other end says, sorry, we're out of money?
Well, I think that's the crisis we're hoping to avoid, is we want to reform the system today and make sure that revenues match up payments that have to be made to avoid a situation where someday somebody says, I'm sorry you're unemployed, but we don't have any money to pay you. And that's why this is so important. And while it's such a big problem and most people just kind of want to bury their heads in the sand and say, well, we'll deal with it at a later day, we have to deal with it now to avoid the situation where this debt grows to an even larger amount and it's even more unmanageable in terms of what would need to happen in order to solve the problem.
So you said the Michigan Chamber has come up with these reforms. You're presenting them to the folks in Lansing. Do you expect them to be receptive?
We do. We think that a combination of reforms and revenues is probably appropriate moving forward. We expect something to be moving this fall in the legislature, and we think that's a really important and very important public policy decision to be made.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Today's Comcast Newsmaker was Wendy Block, the Director of Health Policy and Human Resources for the Michigan Chamber of Commerce.